Hello and welcome back to the Beyond the Scenes podcast. I'm Molly Elizabeth Agnew, founder of Eternal Goddess, and on today's episode, it's just me. There isn't a guest. I'm going solo for the first time because I thought, you know what, it's the end of the year. This is the last episode of the year. It's mid-December and quite frankly I'm moving house in a couple of days, and then I'd like to spend my Christmas with my family, eating chicken and roast beef and pigs and blankets and copious amounts of chocolate. But because it's the last episode of the season, there's a lot of reflection taking place, reflection of our own individual years, my year with Eternal Goddess, this podcast which I started this year, and of course, fashion in the year of 2022. I'm going to be honest, when I was writing down and researching for the list of topics that I wanted to talk about in this episode, I had forgotten so much, which either means I've got a poor memory or it was just that kind of year where so much happened that you can't really keep up with it. So I do hope you don't mind that there's not a guest on this episode and it's just my voice. I hope you don't find it too grating. But we're going to go through some of the biggest fashion moments in 2022. Some of these were ones that I found, some of these were some that my audience gave me as their top fashion moments of the year. Some of them are controversies. So without further ado, let's jump into the fashion moments of 2022 because there is a lot to discuss. Please let me know in whatever platform you're watching or listening to this if there is a comment variety. Let me know what your fashion moment of 2022 was. Alternatively, send me a DM on social media. Speaking of social media, if you would like to keep up to date with more from Eternal Goddess and of course from the podcast, make sure you're following us on social media. So without fail, when I asked on my social media, what was your favourite fashion moment of 2022 or most notable fashion moment of 2022? The majority of people said Bella Hadid and Coperni and that spray dress moment at the recent Paris Fashion Week. So let's discuss it because I must admit it was also going to be on my list. It is at the top of this list for a reason. So if you aren't aware, if somehow you were living under a rock at the last Paris Fashion Week, Coperni, wonderful brand. It was coming to the end of Fashion Month, the end of Paris Fashion Week. Let's be honest, we were all tired mentally and physically. We'd seen a lot of clothes. I'd written a lot of articles and a lot of pieces. I was a bit done. I was a bit not bored, but I was ready for it all to be over. And then the Coperni show happened. How they closed the Coperni show is Bella Hadid walked onto the stage in nothing but a thong and some heels. And she walked on stage and we're all a bit like, oh, what's going to happen here? And then these people, I suppose, the people, what would you call them? Technicians? Technical people started spraying her and spraying her white all over her body in what would become a dress. So basically how this worked is Coperni worked with this brand called Fabrican, who have made a way to make this spray on paint, so to speak, that when it touches the skin it solidifies and becomes a wearable fabric. It's, I suppose, sort of a plastically latexy fabric in the end. I don't know, I've not touched this. I'm not a science person, I am not in STEM, I don't know the proper science behind it, but it basically made this dress and it solidified on her body. It was very form-fitting, obviously, it goes without saying, and it looked incredible. And then they sort of cut a slit up the leg, pulled the shoulders down, and she, walked the runway. At the time, I posted a video on it onto my TikTok that then got taken down by TikTok for nudity, but then got put back up. So thank you very much, TikTok, for that. And I had a lot of people in the comments be like, I don't get the hype over this. Like, I don't really get why this is so important. Let me just say, one of the reasons that I fell in love with fashion is because of runways. And I've spoken about this before, and I will speak on this until the day I die. I fell in love with fashion because of runway. Specifically, runway as performance. I come from a theatre background, a dance background, so for me performance is very important. It's something that I'm really interested in. And growing up, the designer that I first fell in love with was Alexander McQueen because of the runways, because of these shows that Lee would put on. Now, performance on catwalks and runways, it's safe to say it's been missing in recent years. You look back to the 90s and the early 2000s and you've got, oh my god, the runways of Thierry Mugler, stunning performance pieces, a lot of old Vivienne Westwood shows, obviously Lee McQueen, Alexander McQueen shows. Heck, even Karl Lagerfeld at Chanel, he put so much effort into the set design. These were performances, and that is something that has been lacking in way of just, you know, being a clothes horse, really, walking down the catwalk with no real personality. This was a performance piece, and it was showing fashion as performance, but also showing fashion and how it intersects with technology. Now, a lot of people were reminded with this performance, this specific moment of when Alexander McQueen, Shalom Harlow, and she had a dress, you know, designed on her on the runway, which was an incredible fashion history moment. So it's definitely not something that hasn't been done before. This is something that's been done before. Fabricant has been around for quite a lot of years. It's not brand new. The difference is this is the first time that it's being used in this way. And that's what's important about it, because it brought performance back to the runway. So I'm praying and hoping to God that some brands have taken note of how well this went down for the very soon to come somehow Fashion Month again. But also the intersection of technology with fashion, which is a fascinating topic, and I really wish that I was more scientifically inclined so that I could have a better grasp and understanding of technology and fashion, maybe one day, who knows. So all in all, I love it, and this will be a moment that we will talk about in fashion history for years to come. And I know I always talk about fashion history, but when you're watching a moment and you go, I know we're going to be talking about this for at least 30, 40, 50 years, that brings me joy in ways that I cannot describe. Now, from talking about good fashion history to talking about bad fashion history, I have gone viral several times this year online for my thoughts about Kim Kardashian. I would like to just say I have nothing that much against Kim Kardashian as a person. I think the Kardashians have their problems. I also do watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians and the Kardashians on Hulu quite religiously, so I can't say that I don't know anything about them. The Met Gala. Like I said, some of these moments are controversy, and this was a big controversy. And I started posting on TikTok around the Met Gala. I had a video go viral talking about the theme of the Met Gala, and I then kept going viral for talking about Marilyn Monroe and Kim K. And I did a podcast episode with my friend Vassie Birchwood about this. It's one of the earliest, it might be the second episode of the podcast actually, talking about the Kim Kardashian and Marilyn Monroe saga. So I'm going to try keep this brief. You can go there and get like some more thoughts and proper developed conversation, because I'm still furious and angry that this could have happened and could have been allowed to happen. Also, like I said, I do watch the Kardashians because I can't help it. It's my guilty pleasure. On Disney Plus, that's where I watch it in the UK. That's where it's available. The last 2 episodes of the series, there's a lot about the Met Gala and a lot about the Marilyn Monroe dress, and all that did was fuel my anger further. So, for those not aware of what happened or have forgotten what happened with Marilyn Monroe and Kim K, it was the Met Gala earlier this year, and Kim Kardashian had the absolute audacity to wear Marilyn Monroe's Happy Birthday, Mr. President dress. I know I'm a fashion history person. I know I have talked about this at length online about preserving fashion history and the importance of fashion history. I will always talk about that, and you know what? Maybe I'll annoy people with it, but some things just shouldn't be touched. And what was shown in the Kardashian series about it was that it was so hard for Kim to get in this dress. Even so that when she did wear it to the Met Gala, it didn't even fit her. It didn't close at the back. What is the point in stretching, ruining and devaluing an incredibly important piece of fashion history from the 1960s so that you can wear it on a red carpet for 5 minutes and then change into a replica? I will never not be angry about it. And, you know, like all the people that commented on my videos, Kim, there are people that are dying, and, you know, there are better things to worry about in the world. Firstly, people are allowed to have their opinions about other things, even if you think it's not that important. I actually do think it's one of the saddest moments of fashion in this year, and I think it has led to a lot of positive conversations about restoration and preservation of fashion and fashion history, but overall, it infuriated me. On a lighter note, let's stick with the Met Gala because, again, when I asked people, what are your 2022 fashion moments? There was one moment from the Met Gala, which I can't blame you all for bringing it up, because I completely agree. Blake Lively in Atelier Versace. If anyone is going to show up to the Met Gala and just go for it, one of them is going to be Blake Lively. And she did us all proud. So the rough theme for this Met Gala this year, which to be honest, most people interpreted it in very different ways, like Kim Kardashian, was basically Gilded Age of America. So we're talking late 19th century, late Victorian, which was a moment of real technology and growth. And Blake Lively wore, I don't know whether you'd call it a reversible dress. How would you call it? I can't remember what I called it at the time. I suppose reversible. She turned up, the dress was one colour. She then put down a train and it turned into another colour. And the reference for it was pretty obvious. It was Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, changing from one colour to another colour, which is what happened to the actual Lady Liberty. It's not actually originally blue, and that's what she copied. And I think not only was she one of the celebrities who listened to the theme and put her own interpretive spin on it without being too literal or being too abstract, but it was just a really bloody beautiful dress. She looked stunning. She always looks stunning, and she was glowing, and she looked incredible, and it was definitely a moment. And going back to performance in fashion, sure, it wasn't Lady Gaga. Of course, it wasn't Lady Gaga at the Camp Met Gala, but it was still a little bit of a performance. And honestly, this Met Gala wasn't very good. So it was definitely the standout positive moment that I think we can all be happy about. So after a brief interim of Blake Lively lightening the mood, we're back to controversy, and I'm going to only talk about this briefly and touch on it as sensitively as I possibly can, because this is a recent happening, and I suppose is still happening. The last 3-4 weeks have been quite dark in the fashion world. So I just wanted to mention Balenciaga because this was something that someone brought up when I asked about fashion moments of 2022, and I was expecting a lot of people to have generally positive moments from the year, and obviously this is a deeply non-positive moment from the year, but I do think it's important to bring up because it isn't a moment that we should ever forget. So briefly to surmise what happened, and if you want proper explanations, I've done some articles of this on the website. Balenciaga had an ad campaign go out that featured children, and those children were holding teddy bears, and those teddy bears were dressed in BDSM bondage clothing, gear, accessories. What also transpired is that as part of that campaign, part of the set design, there was paper on a desk, and one of those pieces of paper related to a US Supreme Court decision relating to child pornography. It's safe to say that for obvious reasons, there was a lot of outrage and rightly so, a lot of backlash. And Balenciaga has dealt with it pretty appallingly. It has led to a lot of weird conspiracy theories online, and people feeling the need to shit, that's the only word I can think of right now, shit on Christabel Balenciaga. This has nothing to do with that man, and there's another reason why you should be careful about using your name for your brand. But basically, Demna, the creative director of Balenciaga, has been in a lot of backlash and outrage. Balenciaga tried to blame all of the happenings on the set designers. This is an ad campaign for a very big fashion house. Demna and the ad team have to sign off on every single aspect. And as someone that works in marketing myself, I know how long it takes to get something signed off for the smallest insignificant thing. They knew what they were doing, they let it happen. But it's, like I said, it's ongoing, so I'm gonna, kind of stop here. But like I said, I have information currently on the website. I suppose we're not gonna hear much right now since it's coming up to Christmas and things are kind of slowing down, but I would expect Kering to announce their firing, or they'll say it was amicable decision to leave of Demna from Balenciaga. I think it's the only right thing to happen. Okay, I promise that was the last controversy and slightly Debbie Downer conversation. The rest, all lovely. So this was a great comment that one of my followers said, which I love because I hadn't thought about this, which was the return of the 90s supermodel. Nothing's ever going to beat that era of 90s supermodel. Like, nothing will ever come close to that again. I don't think we'll never be able to recreate it. But I do think we've got a new era of supermodel that we're on the horizon of, and that it's nice to know that we're going into it and that we're witnessing it. For me, obviously, everyone's talking about Bella Hadid. I've already spoken about her here. She is working her ass off so much. She is working so hard, and I think we can all agree that she has deserved the title of supermodel, and she is not the only one doing this. There are so many other models who are really proving themselves to be worthy models. The other model that I think did really well this year and deserves a lot of recognition is Paloma Alcacer. I think she's wonderful. I think she's remarkable. She's doing a really good job, and I'm really excited to see what 2023 brings her. So, short topic, but the return of 90s supermodels. It's great. I'm all here for it. I'm all here for models, and models having personality. I feel like we went through such a moment of models just being a bit boring. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. You know, I'm not saying the individual people themselves are boring. I just mean, like, on the runway. They were a bit boring. But to have personality back, like I said at the beginning, personality and performance, I am so here for it. Now, for me, my favourite French fashion house, it's not Chanel, it's not Dior, in fact it is very much not Chanel, it's Schiaparelli. I love Schiaparelli fashion history. My friend, I'll tag her around here, she runs the Schiaparelli archive, and she does such an incredible job. Schiaparelli have had an incredible year, and especially their couture collections from Paris Couture Fashion Week, 3-4 months ago. That collection, I hesitate to say that it changed my life, but it certainly had an impact on it, and is still having an impact on it. Daniel Roseberry has an incredible way of honouring the work of Elsa Schiaparelli and her influence, while also creating a brand that has his own touch on it. And I feel like this collection is sort of standalone from other Schiaparelli collection. It wasn't overly black and gold like we see repeating, and I'm not saying there's anything against that. Like I said, I adore Schiaparelli. I'm all here for black and gold and for the beautiful accessories. But this couture collection was cohesive in a different way. I love flowers. I'm a botany kind of person. I love fresh flowers. I always try and have fresh flowers in my house. I love this. This is an update, sorry. My first podcast episode ever on here was talking with my friend Neve from Wimpress Embroidery, talking about embroidery. And I said on that podcast episode, I could never get into embroidery because I'm too much of a perfectionist. I get angry at the smallest things when I screw something up. And I just knew it wasn't for me. I'm now obsessed with embroidery, and I am embroidering a lot of botany, and I'm having a very good time, and it's a real therapy now, and I'm enjoying it. So there's an update for you. Moving back to Schiaparelli, the beauty for me of this collection was the use of velvet, the use of florals, and the use of structure, and corsetry. I just think it was an incredible collection, and every time that we have seen it on the red carpet, be that Taylor Russell at the BFI in that incredible pink corset, or Kate Blanchett in the velvet black jumpsuit at Venice Film Festival. Who wore the red piece? The piece with the heart. That might have also been Taylor Russell. I have a feeling Taylor Russell did that for an editorial piece. I may be mistaken. I may be correct. I don't know. Let me know. But every time I've seen it, I've fallen even further in love with the entire collection. And it was the standout collection of the year for me. And some people might think that's a bit boring. I don't know. But it's just my personal taste. I loved it. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. Because it was my favourite collection of the year. Carrying on and speaking about collections and shows, let's talk about the recent London Fashion Week, because that was a weird moment. So on the 8th of September, the Queen died. And, you know, with all due respect to the late Majesty, who was a wonderful woman, a lot of respect for her, it really messed up London Fashion Week by quite a lot. A lot of shows got postponed, shows weren't allowed to be held on the day of the funeral, and, you know, most designers and most brands wouldn't have wanted to do that anyway, just out of respect. That's valid, that's fair. I want to talk about Richard Quinn. So Harris Reed did a little bit of a, you know, lots of shows had some kind of in memoriam to the Queen or some kind of nod to her. Harris Reed did a good one. But Richard Quinn, he had about 7 days. I know I've written about this somewhere. I know the exact numbers, but also it's the end of December and my brain is absolutely fried. He had about a week, let's say, to completely redo his collection because he decided to honour the Queen by basically putting out a mourning collection with a lot of historical inspiration. Mourning clothing from history, again, we've done a podcast episode on that this year, is a topic that I'm really interested in. It's a topic that I'm fascinated by. Obviously, big interest in fashion history from me. It's my niche. But I also, I don't know if I've ever really properly spoken about this. I'm a really morbid person. I wanted to be a forensic pathologist growing up. I like dead. I like death. So mourning clothing from history is like a very specific subsection of both of those topics that conjoin for me. So I was really fascinated to see this collection, how it would play out. And I think he created some incredible pieces. And actually, this is a weird thing to bring about. I was writing about Wednesday, the TV show Wednesday, and the costume designer for Wednesday, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name right now, but she was talking about, you know, it's really difficult when you have a character that mainly wears black to make it look interesting, and so you've got to play around with texture and different shades of black to make an interesting outfit. And the reason I bring that up is because obviously most of the Richard Quinn collection, obviously there were some pieces that were from the original collection, but the mourning section, let's call it, was obviously all in black. And look, I love black. I wear black a lot. I love an all black outfit. I like a neutral. But it can be hard to make it look interesting and give it texture and give it life. And by using textures and using laces and using meshes and different varieties of lace, because lace is a whole topic. There is so much about lace that is fascinating and complicated, and we'd be here forever. But he made them look interesting. He gave them texture. He gave them variety. And I mean this, you know, there's something poetic about this, and I'm not going to give it poetic justice, but he gave life to death. Another standout collection for me. Now, before we get on to two massive trends, because I want to round this up by talking about trends, I just want to have a quick moment for Rihanna, because I feel like we've all forgotten, because this all happened months ago, her maternity fashion. Look, I'm not a mother. I've not been pregnant. I've never worn maternity clothing, but to my understanding, maternity clothing needs a little bit of sprucing up, let's say. And Rihanna just went balls to the wall and said, why should I change what I normally wear? And you know what? All respect to her for it. I think it was a great moment. So to finish, I wanted to talk about two trends, fashion trends of the year, that I've really noticed and that obviously everyone else has noticed. Firstly, Valentino pink. I know, it feels like years that we've been seeing this specific Valentino pink from Pier Paolo. I promise you, it's this year. If you told me that this started in 2018, honestly, I'd believe you. And it's had that much of an impact. It's kind of crazy. Obviously, a lot of that is celebrity endorsement. A whole other podcast topic about celebrity endorsement and brands that we should probably delve into next year. But Valentino pink, I don't even know where to begin. Respectfully, I'm getting bored of it now because it's been so oversaturated in the media. It was a moment, and it's been a moment, and it's a defining moment of the year. And worth a mention. The second moment, defining moment of trend for me personally, is the revival of the ballet flat, specifically Miu Miu. Now, I am from a ballet background. I trained as a ballet dancer all of my childhood. It is one of my biggest passions in life, apart from fashion, is ballet. So obviously, a part of me is very glad that, you know, ballet core is in, so to speak. But respectfully, I hate the Miu Miu flats. I don't hate all of them, but the ones that look like ballet flats, like ballet flat flats, like ballet flat dance shoes, as opposed to, you know, your traditional leather ballet flats. How many times can I say ballet flats? I really hate the Miu Mius. I'm so sorry. I think they just look like they have no structure to them. And me personally, if I want to wear an outfit and my outfit look good, my shoes need to look like shoes, or at least look like they have support. And I cannot get on board with the Miu Miu really unstructured flats. Having said that, I'm all for ballet flats in general being back in. I don't think they should have ever left. In fact, I don't think they ever really did leave. I used to live in this one specific pair of black, they definitely weren't real leather, ballet flats. So much so that I think they genuinely started to tear apart. I loved them as a kid, and obviously I don't have them anymore. But I love ballet flats. Why not like a ballet flat? I also think they're very versatile, ballet flats. You can do a lot with them, and you can design them in a lot of different ways, and you can wear them with a lot of different things. A note on 2023, since we've gone through 2022, what on earth is going to happen next year? What on earth are we going to be talking about this time next year? I don't know. I'm not a trend predictor. I'm not one of those people. I do not necessarily have the foresight for it. But I think we've got a very interesting year ahead, specifically big fashion houses. Coming off the back of everything happening at Balenciaga, the fact that Alessandro Michele has left Gucci. I think there are some shake-ups coming, and I do feel like we're heading into a new era. Whether that's going to be a positive era or not, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I do think that there is some changes happening. It's crazy for everyone. Every single aspect of life this year has been a thing. For literally everyone. And I think we're going to see some shake-ups next year. I don't necessarily think trends are going to change that much. Obviously, there'll be more micro trends. There are always micro trends. But in terms of controversy, I think there's going to be a lot of controversy next year. And let's see when I come back this time next year to talk about my fashion moments from 2023, whether I was correct. But we'll see. I'm not really a predictions kind of person. Actually, that's a lie. I'm very good at predicting royal fashion, but that's because it's got more rule books. Okay, if we're predicting something, thank you. I would just like to put a prediction in because I know this is definitely going to happen. I would like to put my predictions in because I will talk about this. I know I will do episodes on this at the time. The coronation in May. Is it the 6th of May? Something in May. I would just like to say the Princess of Wales, Catherine, Kate, whatever you want to call her, she will be wearing Sarah Burton, Alexander McQueen. She will have inspiration from her wedding dress. It will be a similar colour, not as white, a bit more creamy, and it will have a lot of emblems on it. And I'm going the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland. Thank you very much. I will come back to this in circa 5 months, 6 months, 4 months. January, February, March, April, 5 months. So thank you very much for letting me ramble in your ear about happenings in the fashion industry of 2022. I hope you don't mind that this was a solo episode. I would do more solo episodes in the future, but I feel like, the premise of this podcast is to interview people and learn things, and I can't necessarily learn from myself. Now, in light of us going into a new year, please send me a DM, send me your requests for topics to discuss on the podcast next year. Perhaps you have specific guests that you'd like me to invite on. Please do let me know. And I will see you in the new year after having a rest, and hopefully I will feel restful, but for some reason I feel like I probably won't. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to keep up to date with more from Eternal Goddess and the podcast, of course, make sure you're following us on social media.